This is a film that I had to think about it for a minute. It's not as bad as the critics make it out to be at the time that it came out. I do have quite a few issues with the film, so it might be like a ranting review. Like, it's a mixed bag for me, and that is Harlem Nights. Because a film with Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, you have Arsenio Hall, you have Danny Aiello. I mean, right there, these two guys, you would think it'd be like a comedy classic, and it should be hilarious, and there is some funny bits. But the movie feels like it goes on for too long, and there's a good chunk of pieces of the film where there's really no humor. Like in the first like 20, 25 minutes, there's quite a bit of funny stuff to it. But then a good chunk of the middle is played almost for straight. And it doesn't really get as funny until there's a bit with Arsenio Hall, which has some entertaining stuff to it. But it doesn't get as hilarious as it was going for in its first like 25 or so minutes. But this was a passion project for Eddie Murphy. He wrote it, he directed it, he executive produced it, he's the star of it. He got to work with his idol Richard Pryor. He also had Red Fox, like I said, Della Reese, which is very different from Touched by an Angel. Like I said, Arsenio Hall, which Eddie had just worked with on Coming to America. And this film did not do well. It was a box office flop. It was a critical flop. Well, I don't know if I call it a flop. I think it did make some money. Because if I understand, the budget was like 30 million and it made like 60 million. So I don't know if I'd say it's a flop, but it was definitely for Paramount a box office disappointment. Pretty much in 1918, Eddie Murphy's character is a little kid and he runs errands for Richard Pryor. There's a moment where he helps Richard Pryor out because Richard Pryor is about ready to get stabbed by this guy who lost at this game of dice. And there's some fun stuff with Richard Pryor where he calls the guy, "You snaggletooth motherfucker." But the kid shoots the guy in the head who's ready to stab Pryor. And that's where you really get the idea that Pryor takes the kid under his wing and nicknames him Quick. And then it's many years later in the 30s, 40s era, where they run this club, Club Sugar Ray, where there's gambling and dancing in the front and a brothel in the back. The brothel is run by Della Reese's character, who's a very foul-mouthed lady. Red Fox works with them. He's a guy who can't see well, and they put him these glasses. And pretty much other people want to mosey in on their business. This one guy named Bugsy, and then this corrupt cop played by Danny Aiello. This lady here is a madame, a mistress of our bad guy Bugsy, who the actor's name is Michael Lerner. I know I've seen him in other stuff. He definitely seems recognizable to me. I can't think of it at the top of my head. But while there are also funny stuff, I mean, when Della Reese gets in a fight with Eddie Murphy and she's punching the shit out of him, beating him the fuck up, and then he has to put this trash can to her head, and she's like, "Oh, huh, okay. You like using trash cans, huh? Come on, sucker. Let's get it on." And when she gets hit with the garbage can, "Ooh, now I gotta cut ya." And Eddie Murphy pulls out a gun, "You beard your way, I'll blow your pinky toe off." And ultimately he does. And Della Reese definitely loves saying the phrase "kiss my ass" because he says "kiss my ass" to everybody. And her and Red Fox have a funny, volatile but funny relationship where your Red Fox is like, "Fuck you, bitch." There's one line later on when they're trying to get Eddie Murphy to apologize to her, and Red Fox about, "Oh, she's a sweet lady," and then she yells something, and then Red Fox goes, "Just swallow it and shut the fuck up, you fat bitch." you really should talk to her and say sorry. Like, there are moments that do work and are funny, and it's cool to see these two guys in the same scene, in the same environment, and then you have Red Fox in there. It's cool to see these generations of comedians in the same room playing off each other. But there's a lot of issues. Maybe because Eddie was a first-time director. Maybe at the time he was too busy trying to party, let alone, and not enough time directing. Like I said, the movie will drag from time to time. There are good chunks where there's no humor at play. Like Aiello talking to Richard Pryor about what club he has, and Pryor says, I have a candy store, and Aiello doesn't believe it, but the scene feels like it goes on for 15 minutes. This boxer, played by Stan Shaw, who stutters and has a speech impediment. I'm like, did you really need that? Because it wasn't really funny. It was rather annoying, to be honest. And sad to say, Richard Pryor was very low energy in this. Now, word has it that the reason his character was toned down, that it wasn't like that in the script, but some say, might have been even in his autobiography, that he had a diagnosis, like he heard a recent diagnosis of his MS, his multiple sclerosis, and that bothered him quite a bit, and he didn't really tell anybody that he had MS, and thinking about that affected him, and that's why. And part of me is like, okay, that's weird, because in the same year, 1989, he came out with See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Gene Wilder, and I love that movie. That's my favorite Richard Pryor film, and my favorite film with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder together. I love See No Evil, Hear No Evil. I reviewed that on the channel. And you watch See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and he's playing a blind guy, and he has this energy, and he's foul-mouthed, and he has this fun banter with Gene Wilder, and it's like, well then fucking change, or, oh, he's gonna put a hole in his head, fuck him in his holes. Or, you mean I'm not white? What, it feels like it? Ah, does dad know? Like, there's multiple lines of dialogue from Richard Pryor in the same year, 1989. See No Evil, Hear No Evil, that I can remember off the top of my head. I can't remember any lines other than the beginning where he's like, you snaggletooth motherfucker. But even then, he was saying it like low key. And on the one hand, it was nice to see. I'm a fan of Richard Pryor. It was nice to see these two guys on the big screen. But the fact that these two guys are in the same film, it should garner monumental laughs. And for some it does, but for me, it's, if that's why Richard Pryor was so low, maybe it was one of those things that when he did See No Evil, Hear No Evil, he was a star of that film, so he thought he had to work harder, or at that time, maybe he didn't know about his MS, or maybe he was dealing with it, while at this time he just found out about it, or he just found out a certain change in it. And that, I don't know the whole deal. But either way, it affected his performance, and it's one of his weaker performances, sad to say. Not as bad as, say, Another You, which I think is Richard Pryor's worst film. It's just very sad to watch. And I feel bad for Richard Pryor, what happened to him. I really do. But here, like, you could tell he seemed a bit sick. Maybe playing a blind man, he was able to hide that better. Maybe that made him more comfortable. But here, you could tell that there was something off with Richard, and that was sad. That was very sad to see. Yeah, not as noticeable as Another You, which is the last film he did with Gene Wilder. But still, it's like, you wished he had more energy and that more fire that he had in Silver Streak, or even Brewster's Millions, among other films he did. Stir crazy. And also the time period. I'm not a big fan of the era of the 30s and 40s. I would have preferred if this was a modern time story. It's kind of the same thing with Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds finally get together in a film as a period piece, a 30s, 40s era, and that was City Heat. And I would say I like this more than City Heat. City Heat, I flat out do not like. This one, at least, there are fun moments, like when Arsenio Hall thinks that Eddie Murphy killed his brother, and Arsenio Hall's like crying the whole time, and Arsenio Hall's actually with Miguel Nunez Jr. or Miguel Nunez, I'll say. Miguel Nunez, for those who don't know, he was in Return of the Living Dead, Friday the 13th Part 5. He was the Juana Man in Juana Man. The both of them are trying to get to Eddie, and Arsenio's character's crying the whole time. He's like, "How do I get you, motherfucker?" That got some chuckles and laughs. But again, like a good chunk to the middle, like the laughs are gone. Well, like I said, when the corrupt cop Danny Aiello is talking to Richard Pryor, and the conversation feels like it goes on for too long, and this feels like there's some editing that could happen in this. The stuttering botcher, played by Stan Shaw, do we really need him to stutter for humor and laughs? I just found it irritating as fuck. Richard Pryor's talking to his old lady, and very, very low key and quiet. Or Danny Aiello coming by the club, coming up with a plan. What are we going to do? These guys are messing in. Oh, here's a plan. We're going to rub this Bugsy Calhoun guy, and we'll also deal with Danny Aiello's characters. Like, I get it's trying to tell a story. Maybe this was, since Eddie Murphy's directed it, he wanted to do a period piece, which I thought was a mistake. I would have preferred it in modern time. Because again, just the time period is not that interesting to me. It's not that intriguing to me. And sometimes it switches a bit too curvy with the humor and the tone. Like, for example, this mistress, this madame, what's the actress's name? I forget who it is. Jasmine Guy, I believe. This lady here. She's working with the Bugsy character, Michael Lerner's character. And she seduces Eddie, and they have sex, and he realizes she has a little gun or a pillow. And there's something here, oh, that's cute. I thought I was the only one who slept under a pillow with my gun. You know, under a pillow with a gun. Oh, that's cute. She has a gun or a pillow just like I do. Then he figures out. Then while they're kissing, she's ready to shoot him. There's no bullets because he took him out. And then, boom, gets the gun and shoots her. Like, fairly quickly. It's like, oh, shit. Not like, maybe you should leave town. Maybe you should get out of here. Maybe you should tell him that, hey, no free ride. Just immediately shoots her. It was so abrupt. It's like, oh, okay. All right, then. Although I did like a line of dialogue where he tells Richard Pryor, I shot her, man. And Richard Pryor does say, was the pussy that bad? So that's one of those moments that, you know, Richard Pryor came through, and that was a pretty fun line reading. I shot her. Was the pussy that bad? So I can see why this film would have fans for moments like that. And once in a while, there's some nice moments between the two, like when Richard Pryor's trying to tell Eddie, listen, don't be so hot-headed. You know, you're 20-some years old. It'd be really stupid to get killed at such a young age. Because if they kill you, they don't have to kill me. Because I'm going to kill them. You know, they don't have to kill me because I'm going to kill them. So you know, Richard Pryor sort of putting some fatherly advice to Eddie Murphy. That was nice. That's what I mean. I don't totally hate this film. There's some fun bits in the first act of the film. A couple of fun lines. The acting, for the most part, I don't have a problem with. Richard Pryor, it's just sad that you could see the early, the onset of MS. Maybe that's why his energy was low. And the third act is more about them going through with their plan with this boxing match, and Pryor and Eddie, they switch these bags with money. They trap Danny Aiello in the safe, which was kind of a weak way to get rid of that character, because Danny Aiello, you really wanted the character to get his comeuppance, and he doesn't really, because even though they make the assumption that he'll survive this and he'll be fine, it's like, oh, you have enough air, and Dell's like, I'll see you again. Richard Pryor's like, yeah, probably. I thought Danny Aiello's character deserved a much more fitting like fate finale, considering some of the crap he pulled on this in this film. But yeah, they get the money, they take care of some of the other bad guys, and they're about to ready to head out of Harlem. And I mean, the movie did a decent take on making it look like the 30s and 40s with the costumes, and like I said, the cast. Daniel worked well in his performance. Red Fox, Della, Reese, Arsenio Hall, Red Fox. I give credit where credit's due that Eddie Murphy wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit off the beaten path. It's just for the film that you get these two guys together. Some people find it hilarious. I thought it was funny in parts, but there's also a good chunk parts of the movie where there's really no laughs. It's devoid of laughs, and that hurts the film. And the pacing hurts the film. I think there's at least a good 15 minutes you gotta cut out of this. The and again, I keep repeating this, but it's sad that he had that low energy to him. I can't give too much crap on the guys going through MS. I mean, that's not an easy thing to go through. So cut the guy a break. But at the same time, you wish things had turned out differently. Or, I don't know. I don't know. The story, I didn't really care for. I think that's another thing. The story of the film wasn't really the most interesting to me. So I don't think it's a disaster people make it out to be at the time. And I definitely don't think it's one of Eddie Murphy's worst. I mean, this is easily better than Norbit. Imagine that. Meet Dave. The Night Professor films. What was that? The Haunted Mansion. Stuff like that. This would not be in my top 10 worst Eddie Murphy films. Not by far. I can see why there'd be fans of the film. It's just, there's certain things I would have changed. There's certain things I would have liked Eddie to maybe pay a bit more attention to the direction. Maybe give Pryor a little bit more direction if he could, to give a bit more energy or a bit more of that Pryor zest. Maybe not have it a period piece. Be a little bit more consistent in the humor, where it's like humor, then drama, 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 then a little bit of humor, then like the third act, there's really not much for humor. And with all three of these guys, it should be one of the funniest films out there, but sadly that wasn't the case. So, sort of my mixed review of Harlem Nights. Either way, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.